Alright, for this assignment we're doing the 1-point perspective interior space. I want to keep it as simple as possible, and I don't want you to complicate yourself too much. Alright, for this assignment I'm going to use my ruler. If you don't have your ruler by now, you should get one. And if you still don't have one, then just use the edge of a paper as a straight edge. And the first thing I want to do is you want to make a vanishing point, as we've done in all the other perspective assignments. This time I'm going to take a line and I'm going to go to all the corners. And I am making my line a little bit darker just so you can see it on camera. You want to make your line not as dark as mine because you want to erase some of these guidelines later. If you need a different space or whatever interior space it is that you have in mind when you're creating a story, you can always look for reference videos to help you create that space. In this particular one, I'm just going to keep it really simple, and I'm going to try to make like a living room. A very simple living room, okay? So the next thing we want to do is we just want to put some lines in the back, or we want to kind of make a rectangle in the back, and that's going to be the back wall of the room. Try to get this distance as equal as possible, try to make it symmetrical, that way when I make this line, hopefully it lines up nicely. Okay, that is going to be the back wall of the room. So I think it's safe to erase these lines, and I've made my lines hard enough that I can still see them, but don't do that. All you should have left is the vanishing point. Now very quickly I want to run through a few ways that you could possibly do the floor. The first way is kind of like a wooden floor. Either way, the same way that I explained the building in the other video, you need all of these lines that are going to separate the floor to go towards the vanishing point. All lines moving away from you will still go towards the vanishing point regardless of if the space is inside or if the space is outside. Try to keep these lines, you know, equally spaced. It doesn't have to be perfect. Mine already are not perfect. If you're an architect or you're aiming to be an architect, then try to aim for perfection. But we're just aiming to try to understand 1-point perspective, so we're not aiming for perfection today. And this way, you do this if you want to do the wooden floor or if you want to do tiles. And I'll show you both of those options right now in just a second. For the last one, take a peek, make sure that you're not too close to the edge, and make your line. Alright, wooden floors is pretty simple, because now what you have to do is you have to create a horizontal line, and you do it every other space. Why do you do it every other space? Those of you that have wooden floors, you know that they aren't placed side by side like tiles are. Or this is kind of, think about like a brick arrangement, just a bit longer. Now once you have that, then in the other space you're going to put a very similar line. Oops. If you put it in the wrong space, just erase it, put it in the correct space. A very similar line, like that. And that kind of creates the illusion of that wooden floor. Maybe it's going back too far here, like it decreases in size too rapidly, but that doesn't matter. That still gives the illusion. Now, in order to make that tile floor, what you would have to do is initially you would have to double up on this line, on the lines that you create here, and then that is to represent like the grout in between the tiles. And then tiles are placed, well, sometimes they're placed side by side, so you don't have to space out the other lines the way that we did for the effect of the wooden floor. Which one is easier? I don't really know. Try to make sure that your lines for your grout aren't too wide. I think a few lines are a bit too wide. I'm trying to rush too much since I'm doing multiple floors. I don't want the video to be too long. Alright, once you double up on that line, you're going to do the same thing. Now I'm going to make these lines all connect here, and I'm going to double up on this line. So I'm going to do that. And that gives you the illusion of tile. Now, that is grout, so it would be a little bit darker. I do think that mines are a bit too thick, the spaces. So if you can make them thinner, but like I said before about perfection, we're not really aiming for perfection, we're just aiming for understanding. Oh, of course, everything stops here because that's the back wall. So keep that in mind as we move forward. This is an interior space, so we're not going beyond that. I do want to put a carpet in here, so normally you would create the side of the carpet using a line here. And I'm just going to have it come off the page completely. And then you create your, your horizontal line. And then you make the other side of the carpet like that. Carpet or rug, yeah, it's a rug, and that would be overlapping the floor, so you want to be able to see the tile there. Because it would be rug. If you know you're going to do this right from the beginning, it wouldn't be a bad idea to avoid doing the tiles, but for demonstration purposes, I think it's good to show you. It's easier to understand. Now, if you're copying me, hopefully you paid attention to the video that I played in the beginning so you don't have to erase like I just did. And I'm gonna do one of these modern rugs that has a strange pattern on it or something. I wouldn't say strange, but just different squares, random squares, right? So in order to do that, you have to make sure that the lines that would be moving away from us in that pattern, that they're going towards the vanishing point. Both sides. And again, for this project, you guys don't have to do what I'm doing. Find an interior space you like, and you can use that by all means. And you can shade this or not. That's up to you. All right, now in order to make it easier for us to understand, what we're going to do is we're going to take geometric shapes, primarily rectangles and squares and things, and we're going to turn them into our furniture. I know that sometimes furnitures have curves, but what we're going to start doing here to put a couch in place is I'm going to do like a three-dimensional, not a three-dimensional, let's just say an L, but it has to, well, just watch. Again, also, the L would be, I'm sorry, not the L, the couch is going to be overlapping. This is why, in this particular assignment, it's very important to draw very lightly. So you see how that looks like an L. I didn't know how to say it, but it's like a bubble letter type of L. Now, all of these corners, you remember your corner assignment, I wanted them to go towards the vanishing point. All right, what are we going to do back here? We're going to make sure that in that space we've created, we want this line and this line to be parallel. We're going to go straight down, so these two lines are parallel. From there, we're going to go out, and these two lines, we want them to be parallel as well. Now, all of this is overlapping. So again, we wouldn't be able to see our floor as much. When you draw the floor, draw it very lightly. And we're going to cover up our rug as well. So there you have the beginnings of what's going to be our couch. Right away I want to add just an extra space here for the arm of the couch. Okay. Now that space is not going to go all the way towards, it's a small space. You have to think about a couch and try to visualize it in your mind. So it's just going to have a little line going towards the vanishing point, and that's going to come down. And then this line is going to come straight back. And actually, over here at this corner, we're going to have to line that up towards the vanishing point as well. Back here we want to do the same thing to give the other side of the couch an arm as well. Both of these lines should go towards the vanishing point. And this is going to go back, this goes back, this line towards the vanishing point as well. And then here we would be able to actually see the corner there. So if you have a bit of imagination, you can see that, how that shape is going to eventually be our couch. And we could erase this space as well. Some modern couches you could just probably leave like that, but I don't want to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and add like cushions and things like that. Probably one of the easiest ways to add a cushion is I'm going to take lines. So the cushion itself would need a line from the corner, and then you come down there and you start making these a bit more curved so they're not so square. And that cushion would go all the way to that other side and down there. Now, if you don't want it to be so square, you can start curving some of these edges to make it feel a bit more round. And yeah, the bottom here would also have to go towards the vanishing point, so it tells you where the space for the top one is. And then we could also curve this a bit. And let's curve that a bit. Now right from that cushion, we're going to go up, vertical line. And let's just go ahead and curve all of this as well. And just erase your corners like that. Now this line would also have to be curved. So you could add, look up some references for some sofas, and you could add whatever pattern you think should go there, or whatever small details you feel like you're going to need. I think I want to add like a cushion up there on top. I think that space up there looks a bit awkward. And so I'm just gonna add like a little something extra, just maybe like a headrest or something. And then I think I'm going to curve this a bit. Still following, you know, the lines that I created. Throw this down, so make it like a reclinable. And add a little thing here, so it can recline. And I want to just finish it off by kind of adding the legs. And that's my couch. You can make your couch however you want. Look up another tutorial to help you make the couch, or just look at a couch and try to design it however you think is appropriate. Now right behind the couch here, I want to add a window. Now how close do I want that to be to the couch? Pretty close. So let's say maybe a little doggy gets up there and can look out the window. The bottom and the top of the window have to go towards the vanishing point. Keep that in mind. And right away, I'm just going to add another line for, well, 2 more, but close together, so we can put the drapes that go over the window. This line is going to go straight down, as well as this line would go straight down. It's a very nice area for a window space. All right, this space here has to go in a little bit, right? So kind of the edge of the window. This line has to go towards the vanishing point. We wouldn't really be able to see this end because in theory it would be here behind. So we don't have to draw this edge. So that's already giving us a bit of depth. And let's just split this window up. You can split it into 4 sections or into 6 sections. If you have like the foresight to know exactly what you're going to do, then that's great and you can do it. I know that some of you, like me, I'm making it up as I go along, so I might have to add things or remove things later. Like now I want to add the drapes here. So I may have to erase some of the window depending on if the drapes cover it or not. The top of the drapes and the bottom of the drapes should go towards the vanishing point, even though it's fabric and it'll fall a little bit differently. So that gives me an area for the bottom of my drapes here and here. Alright, if you're going to do drapes here at the bottom, they're going to curve. So use that line you just created to make that curve. Now, on the inside of these, right, we're going to make, this is a little bit complicated. And you have to make these drapes. But you're going to put a line showing the curve of the fabric. And now, like I said before, we're gonna have to erase the window and the edge and the behind, because the drapes will be covering that up. If you have the foresight to know that you're gonna make some drapes, and you know, for some of this stuff you're just going to have to do that. You're gonna have to erase quite a bit. And we also need to, you know, figure out the top of the drapes. doesn't have to be perfect, just they're also going to curve, much like the bottom. Now, they should have kind of this hole to let the rod that's holding them go through. A lot of this is just attention to detail. Not sure where this line is coming from. Attention to detail and not worrying about, just try to think of it as many little things as you can. I am gonna just shade a little tiny bit. And you want to do the same thing on the other side, just a bit smaller. So you don't have to worry as much about the specifics because, you know, in theory, the viewer so you can freehand that one, that'd be fine. I think I freehanded both of them. Maybe erase the space first so you have to worry about tiny details. And there you have, you know, your drapes, and you have your rod holding the drapes up. I don't know how I feel about this window. I think I'm going to separate it just a bit more, but I don't know if I should. No, I'm going to leave it just like that. You do want to just, to show that this is glass, just maybe put a few lines in there. Not in every single one. Just want to give the idea that, you know, it's glass. Now, let's deal with this back wall. On a wall, people typically have paintings or things like that, shelves. So we could put in a shelf. Let's put in a shelf. So the way that you're going to put in a shelf is by creating a long, thin rectangle, making these corners go back towards the vanishing point, and then just make the other line. And there you have a shelf. Below that shelf, maybe we want to put a painting or something. In order to do that, you just make a rectangle or a square. This rectangle or square is flat, so it doesn't have that much depth. If it were something three-dimensional, it would be over the vanishing point, so it still wouldn't have. Plus, this is a painting. It doesn't have enough depth. So don't worry about it too much. Or a picture, necessarily a painting. This is a bit more fun. Well, maybe I put this shelf too high. But whatever, let's roll with it. Let's put some vases over here. Some decorative vases. And we'll put a little plant in here. A little flower. So you have to systematically go space by space, and you have to fill in the space with something that would be somewhat realistic. Make the frame dark. it just a painting of a tree. This can be a portrait of a person. I think that probably should put something over here. Maybe decorate this pot a little bit more. With one point perspective, it's very easy to get carried away with details, but at the same time, the details add more to it, you know. I'm gonna go ahead and put another picture over here just for symmetry. And then, of course, you know, these little, whatever you do in these pictures does not have to look good, so don't even worry about that. There you go. So you have two picture frames. And I feel like that back wall is feeling much more complete now. We are missing maybe a TV over here on this side. Let's have like a little stand for the TV to be on. This should be easier or easy, because just to make a stand, all we have to do is, I'm gonna try to line it up a little bit with the couch. That you make like a box or a rectangle, not too big. Have that go towards a vanishing point, which our corner is already the corner of the room, which works very nicely for us, because then we could just toss a line there. Well, this line should also go towards the vanishing point. My vanishing point is right there. And then this goes back, and this line also goes towards the vanishing point. This also overlaps the floor, so we're going to go ahead and erase a little bit more of that floor. Let's put some shelves here. Well, let's double up on this line. So by doubling up on this line, we give ourselves kind of the top edge, just to make it feel a bit more, you know, real. Let's do our little sides over here. We could put some shelves, but I think the easier thing is just to separate it into like different drawers. So maybe 3. Oh, forgot to erase the floor over here. And I'm just gonna do like a little knob. All right, so you can pull on that, and that's your drawer. Now let's put a TV. Again, try to make sure that you can see the space that you're making. I want the TV to go right over the stand. Now honestly, I don't even know if I'm going to use that stand because I like my TVs on the wall. Make this a big TV. Now, here is where we need our rectangle to give this depth. And this top line here from this rectangle is going to go towards the vanishing point. And that's going to give you a bit of depth right there for our TV. There at the bottom. Now, this is a TV, so let's just put in a few lines like we did with the windows, just to show that it's a reflective surface. I know that some of you have kind of like a concave ceiling, so let's deal with the ceiling now. I'm not sure if that's the right word, but you know, like the ceiling kind of goes in. And what we do there is we have to create a rectangle. And the top corners here are going to go to, well, it has to go towards the vanishing point, but we're going to go out here. We're not going in. And this one as well. And we have to do the same thing on the other side. And there we have kind of like our concave ceiling, or that space up there. Here we need to create a space to guide us if we want to put some kind of a bit of theater lighting. I'm not going to go too dark here because this is just as a guide. And then that gives you a space for you to put your theater lighting. And you could erase your guidelines. I need to be more consistent, so not so, not so wild. But don't worry about it. It's just, especially for some of you, this will be the first time you do something like this. So. Again, make a few lines here. Make a square. And now I'm going to have kind of a space coming down. And I am getting carried away with this one, because I want to attach my chandelier here. Now, let's just make that basic, you know. Something like that. That provides your light. We should probably have a few lamps in here. That's what we need, but I think I've done enough here to consider, I'd maybe even consider this complete. Definitely feels like a room. There are still some empty spaces. Maybe a few things could go on the table here, or the little stand. And maybe another little bowl on the other side. Maybe a cable box or something. So that could be anything. If you guys want to put little plants here and there, you can. Maybe over here we'll have a vase with a plant in it in the corner of the room. If you want to put a door, maybe instead of some of these pictures, you can put a door. If you want to put another shelf over here, you can put another shelf. Let me show you how to put a shelf on this wall. Let's do it a little bit higher. Start with the rectangle. This line would have to go towards your vanishing point. This line would also have to go towards your vanishing point. And there you have another little shelf where you can put whatever, you know, whatever. So say if you want to put some books, another line going from the vanishing point. Yeah, let's just put a bunch of books up there. A little bookshelf. This would go out, and then you just divide this up. Do some writing here. Have something to hold the books in place. And you just put some books up there. So this is just a space I've made up right now. It could be much simpler than this. It could be more complicated. Whenever you're creating a story, if you need an interior space, at least you would know how to create one. So let's just say I was telling a story about a cat, and the cat had to look outside. So I would draw this, and then you can draw your cat. Of course, look up a reference of a cat. So it's better than this one. But that's just to give you an example. Maybe the story is about the cat destroying the house, or going piece by piece, and maybe he wanted to see if everybody was gone, or if he wanted to see if anybody was home or coming home. You could tell any number of stories, or the story could be about a little bird or something. Maybe a bird got into the house and was suddenly on the chandelier. And maybe your chandelier could be a little bit more cute than mine. Maybe the cat wants to catch the bird, like Tweety, Sylvester. Whatever. But eventually it will be necessary for you to create an interior space. It's good to know one-point perspective so you can create a convincing space. And that's it. Feel free to look up any tutorials online or YouTube that you might like, or that you might think are maybe a bit easier, if you want it to be easier, or if you think this is too easy and you want to make something more complicated, or if you want to make something that's just a little bit more to your liking. If you want to give this one a shot, go ahead. I did do a lot of erasing here just because I was explaining things, so I'll see you guys in class.